So something that makes this event one that definitely is something to look forward to is the fact that we have people physically here in the room now, and we also have people that are joining us from various parts of the world. That's the amazing thing that technology has afforded us in this day and age. So I can gain knowledge from absolutely any part of the world without having to leave my seat. Isn't that amazing stuff? All right, so like I did say earlier on, we're talking about education now and artificial intelligence this morning. And there's so many things that we could stand to learn here. And of course, whatever information that we do gather here will definitely be imparted in other avenues across our existence as human beings. So can I start with our virtual audience, or should I start with the physical? Okay. I hope Mr. Orakwe John will be audible when we're ready to get to him. But Mr. Hussein?
Yeah, I'm hearing you well. Yes, I'm with you.
All right, awesome, Mr. Hussein. So I'm going to start with you. And I would like to find out, in your thoughts, how can AI be effectively integrated into African classrooms? Especially when we're trying to create a personalized experience, ensuring that no student is left behind, and each learner is able to reach his or her full potential. If you need me to repeat the question, kindly state so.
No. I'm hearing it very well, and I'm getting the question. So let me start with a great pleasure to be again with the other panelists. And for your question, as you know, the AI can play a transformative role in African classrooms by personalizing learning experience. And in the context of my work and my experience, I believe that empowering students to become creators and problem solvers through the AI-driven platforms and tools. I think we have and we are working to encourage students to explore their unique interests and learning paths. I think also we are working on and promotes like many tools, and we are working to enable students to work in real-world AI and IoT projects that align with their passions. So I think by integrating AI into African classrooms requires a comprehensive approach. And I would emphasize the importance of the teacher training and support and the educators that need the skills and the resources to leverage the AI tools effectively. Also, the partnerships with tech companies and educational institutions can help and provide an access to AI-powered platforms and ensure that they are tailored to specific needs of the African students. I think that's like my answer for this and my point of view.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hussein. Mr. Aaron, I'm going to come to you now next, because he did mention that there are specific tools that will be required in the classroom in order to create personalized experiences. Now, during your keynote address, you mentioned a number of things that the Unicorn Group is doing. So could you take us through some tools that you would like to see in the classroom when it comes to a more personalized experience?
Okay, wow, that's amazing. I think like one of the tools that will be necessary to help, AI, because you need a device to actually interact with AI. Mm-hmm. So one of the tools that will help, students interact with various AI applications that will help their personalized learning is having access to tabs, having access to tabs, digital boards in the classroom. These are both tools that will enable students to interact with AI, and help them develop, So I think those are like the two tools that are, in my opinion, relevant to drive this conversation forward.
Okay, that's definitely a good one. However, we know the African situation, and the unfortunate thing most of the time is that there's a lack of financing, which is why it's almost impossible for a lot of schools to actually integrate this into their classroom setting. For me, I was privileged to actually have experienced this studying outside of Nigeria, and coming back, that was one of the things that I was always so sad about, especially when I would go out and do one or two community projects that we did not have. So I'm going to come to you, Mr. Orakwe.
Okay.
Chukwemeka, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Don't mind me. Yes. So I'm going to come to you. How can Africa tap into the funding required? Because Africa is a key player now. So we cannot say that we don't have the money, so therefore we will be left behind. So where do we need to be at? What do we need to be looking at going forward?
Okay, so thank you for that question. Before I go into the funding,
Is your
I
mic on?
wanted to add to what he said concerning tools.
Sure.
So, and that too, we could consider in the African continent, due to our peculiarities in infrastructure, it's something we, based on the Rachel project. Rachel means remote area, remote area community hotspots for education and learning. So it was a project started by World First, where they come with a device where, or rather, if you can't get online, you just bundle the content inside there and take it to the remote areas where systems, so in addition to computers and this and tabs, so for those who cannot get online, they can use that Rachel devices. So funding is very, very critical. And you know, in this part of the world, we always complain there's no funding, there's no funding, there's no funding. So I feel something that is critical for funding is first having a vision as a country or as a continent of where it is we want to go into. So when we have a vision, if education is a priority, so it's important for the government and other organizations, partner organizations, to earmark a certain budget targeted towards education. So, but in this part of the world, in this part of the continent, we find out that education is not a priority. And that's why we keep saying funding is not available. Whereas if you look at every other areas, you see funding going into all sorts of areas that are not priorities. So I think the first thing we need to address is the area of vision and priorities. Because once we can address that, we can better allocate resources. So I know some people might say, oh, it's easy to go to international organizations to go and seek funding. There's a whole lot of funding out there, particularly with AI. There's so many organizations. I know the World Bank and African Development Bank have funding. But before you go out to meet them, it's important that the continent has a clear vision on what it is it wants to achieve. Because most of these fundings are counterpart funding. If you're not putting in some slice of the money, they probably will not support what it is you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuemeka. Now, Mr. Waleola, I'm coming to you. And this question kind of ties to what we've already been talking about when it comes to funding. However, you might have some other things to add to it. Digital literacy now is a vital skill in the modern world that we're living in. How can AI-powered educational tools contribute to improving digital literacy rates across diverse communities in Africa?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So by diverse community, that is quite a broad range, but I would limit it to people that are in rural areas and possibly people that are in urban areas like Abuja and Lagos. I think the first thing to first think about is what is the problem statement. So the problem statement is people want to use AI. People want to have access to internet. This is a problem that's already been solved by, what is the name, Elon Musk, the SpaceX stuff. So how, Starlink. So how did that actually happen? A bunch of rich people on yacht can access the internet. And he came up with, a solution to that. I mean, he is a billionaire. He can actually play around with money, but you would not dispute the fact that he had the backing of his government, right? Like, funding is very important. So for me personally, this is also another problem that it's already, people are already figuring out a way to solve it. Because if you want to use AI, you need access to computing power, which is, what is happening on the cloud. So people just throw new nodes when you need to scale up and when you need to kind of like, reduce, your nodes, you kind of like scale down using auto scaling. So what people are doing right now is, even though you are in the rural community where you don't have access to internet, people are coming up with a solution where you could use your mobile device to actually use AI. So how many minutes do I have before? Just let me know, because I kind of just building up.
You have a minute more. I can give you
Okay,
grace.
a
Don't
minute
worry.
more. All
I'm
right.
in charge.
So basically, the virtual devices, they run it on their computers so that they can actually, reduce, the computing power that you need to actually use AI. So that is what I think people should start, looking at and thinking about how to either, inculcate such technology in our system, which would definitely work both in rural and urban area. That's why I kind of like this, try to focus more on rural, because if anything works there,
It will work in the urban
definitely
areas.
look in urban areas. So I'm
Okay.
going to stop there. There's more to say about that, but
There-
I would just stop there at the point. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Mr. Baleola. Do we now have John Orakwe back on?
Yes,
My,
I'm
my,
online.
my
Yes.
tech team. Oh, awesome. Thank you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, so Mr. John, I'm coming to you with the issue of teacher shortages. Now, early on, we heard our keynote speaker talk about how there's a possibility that some of our jobs will be taken away. Not mine, though.
Yeah.
Not mine.
No, you're creative and human, so you're safe.
Yes. So I want to ask, what are the opportunities abound for AI to address the issue of teacher shortages? And of course, improve the quality of service delivery in education in Africa?
Okay, so I mean, very interesting question. So I'll start with a study from 1984. An American psychologist, Benjamin Bloom, it's called the Two Sigma study. He discovered that when you pair students with a one-on-one tutor, so when you personalize learning for students, they tend to perform outperform 98% of those who do not. So the challenge since then has been, how do we replicate at scale the benefits of personalized learning? And these large language models, GPT-4, GPT 3.5, that's ChatGPT, give us that opportunity. So an example that shows how we can address this teacher shortage is at Harvard. There's a board called CS50. It's the computer science course at Harvard University. So they've trained a bot called CS50, and what that bot does is it provides personalized tutoring for thousands of students. So in that regard, instead of having a ratio of one tutor to 200 students or one tutor to 300 students, what Harvard has been able to achieve with CS50 is one tutor to one student, which now falls back to that study I mentioned earlier. The benefits of personalized learning: every child can be a genius. Every average student can be, tutored to become a genius. And then another example that shows how this can be addressed is with Khan Academy. There's an AI bot which they use called Camigo. And what Camigo does is that it provides personalized tutoring to hundreds. In fact, well, eventually it's going to be millions of people, but for now it's to thousands of testers. So if we bring that same application back to Nigeria, we have a much worse teacher shortage or tutor shortage. So by introducing fine-tuned large language models into our system, it means that this problem that we have now, where you have one teacher, especially in the public school system or and in the university system especially, where a lecturer is attending to thousands of students, that can be addressed by using fine-tuned language models. And it has to be done in such a way that we're not allowing the students cheat. Like Camigo and CS50, the way they've designed it is that these systems have guardrails so that it guides the students to discover the answers themselves. It's an exploration, not just giving them everything that they need. So it's not done in a way to encourage cheating, but to guide them to find the answers to whatever questions they are supposed to discover in that study. That's how I would answer that question.
I'm glad you clarified that cheating bit, because sometimes I feel like when I'm using some of these apps, I feel like I'm cheating myself. Like, shouldn't I be able to sit down and just think of some of these ideas and and put them down without having to get some of these apps to help me out? Okay, so let's quickly move on. Mr. Aaron, I'm coming back to you with this question. Now, this one is on the potential to revolutionize curriculum development. Now, what are some examples that you can share with us of AI-driven content creation that are making a positive impact on education in Africa? And what challenges specifically can they address?
Okay, I believe that AI can be used to create need-based curriculum for the students. With data, we can have insights into areas where the students are lacking. You understand? We can have access into areas the students are lacking through tests, and through this we can develop need-based curriculum for these students that address the current issues they are facing. So this is a very key aspect where AI can affect, curriculum development in Africa.
Okay, Mr. Waleola, you seem to be leaning into the mic. Is there something you wanted to add to what he was saying?
Yes, so right now, my company is building LMS, a learning management system. And, some people were asking me, why don't you just use Moodle, which is an open source, application that you can just load up on your server and put in your curriculum. What we're really working on, it's mostly how we can actually look at what people have done and how they've progressed over the years, because there's a lot of data out there, there's a lot of school curriculums and all of that. So what we can look at, okay, well, this person is a good engineer, but did he study computer science? So he studied computer science, okay, like which school, right? What kind of data? So right now, we're in the process of designing the system by figuring a way to scrape some of these websites so that we could store the information on our database, and then we could most likely load them up, perhaps, and then figure out we can actually use that to train our model to be able to come up with, a proven curriculum that actually works. And I mean, that has worked for somebody.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Waleola. Mr. Hussein?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes, we still have you with us. Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going into AI-powered assessments and feedback mechanisms. Now, how can this be provided in real time so we can have a better look into the progression of students? And how can this data be leveraged by educators to enhance teaching strategies and student outcomes?
Okay, firstly, let me say that the AI-powered assessments enable educators to identify areas where students can excel or struggle in real time. I think this data informs personalized instructors, allowing educators to tailor their teaching strategies to meet individual needs. It also helps in early interventions for struggling students, ultimately leading to improved learning outcomes. So I think the areas of this and allowing educators to tailor their teaching strategies to meet individual needs, also it helps in early interventions for struggling students. And I think in all of this, as AI-powered assessments, we can work together on these outcomes to get a better solution. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Hussein. Now, I'll come back down here to my panelists on stage. Is there anything you'd like to add to that last question? Mr. Chukwu, we haven't heard from you in a few seconds. I want to hear your voice.
Okay, so so what I can say, so based on what we're doing at Pastex, so we have a learning management system, and it's kind of like something I would say the teachable for Nigeria, for Africa. So the goal is not just to curate content, but to ensure that those contents are endorsed by certifying bodies or tertiary institutions. And this is very, very important, because when we talk about AI and personalized learning, we must be very, very careful on not losing the human touch. Everything, the learning content cannot just be based on generative text or context. So that's why we're partnering with educational certifying bodies to ensure that contents on our platform are endorsed by certifying body. So we have a partnership with the African University of Science and Tech, who kind of like endorse all contents that are on our platform. And in terms of feedback, so AI can do a whole lot and empower educators, no doubt about that. Because with the data or the student's data or the student's profile, it can, to a great extent, help the educators know their challenges, their strengths, their weaknesses, and it can also help in optimizing the course pathway or the learning curve of the learners in such a way that it comes with the easy, medium, and advanced questions and learning curve. So that if I know that I'm not as fast as another person, using AI and intelligent tutoring system, it can help me learn at my own pace. So that's what I can contribute to that.
Speaking of these gadgets that you're talking about, how affordable and accessible will they be to all students?
Okay, so I talked about Rachel. So Rachel is $500. So, and he mentioned about Starlink. Starlink is around $500. So I know that in this part of the world, $500 is a huge
lot
amount
of money, yes.
But I believe with the advancement in AI, it's going to become cheaper. Something again I want to mention, and I think Africans should look into it, is the Edge AI. What Edge AI does is that it brings AI to the network. What do I mean by that? It brings it closer to the data. Most of the AI is happening now, computing happens at the cloud. But with Edge AI, it can happen either on IoT device, on the Rachel device, or your phones or your laptop. So that way, it reduces latency and the cost. So they stay a long way. $500 is high, but with a lot of R&D, these numbers can come much, much lower.
We're looking forward to having those numbers come down much more. Yes. Mr. Orakwe, John?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so still in relation to that particular question, how can AI-driven technologies be made more affordable and accessible to students and schools with limited budgets in Africa?
So there are open source large language models. One of the examples is Meta's Llama and Llama 2. So I think what can happen is partnerships with international bodies like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I know they offer a lot of grants to people who are building all of these interesting AI-powered applications, especially for social good, education being one of them. So the ability to use the open source models, they may not be as effective as the closed source models from OpenAI, that's GPT-4 and GPT 3.5, or maybe even Anthropic AI's cloud. But using these open source models, we can build effective solutions that that can be downloaded on mobile devices. And I believe that a lot of the people who are targeted or who are the audience for all of these empowerment programs, especially at the secondary school level, they all have mobile devices. So we can use open source models and build applications that can help them, not just help the students, but also the teachers take off some of the workload and improve their effectiveness in the classroom.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Orakwe.
Yeah.
So, we know how, in as much as education is mostly centered on young people, we also have things such as adult learning, because learning never ends, to be honest. So what role can AI play in promoting lifelong learning and skill development for adults in Africa, especially in view of a rapidly changing job market? Now we need to be keeping up with current trends so that we can actually fit into new roles. So I'll throw this question open to any of you. Who would like to speak first? I'm just managing the traffic. Mr. Wale Ola, the way you're looking at me.
Well, so for me, I think we've talked about a lot of things, but perhaps we are not really addressing the problem. We have a lot of key stakeholders here, people in the government. Perhaps they can help us. We need to, be able to partner with the government. We need infrastructure. We need, funding. We need private research institutions that can actually, do research, right? This is very important because if we're just bouncing ideas off here and we don't actually even have the infrastructure to do it, we definitely might not make, we might not go so far. That's what I think. So going back to the adult education stuff, I love learning, and I've always gone back to colleges to take some random mathematics classes and all of that. I just feel like AI could actually power that by, getting information that people would need, like by data, so that, because everyone's experience is actually different. So if, for instance, if you're a medical practitioner and then you want to dive into, for instance, IT, so the question is, okay, well, what kind of skills do you have? And based on the skills you have, based on your training, what is the path that you should learn, right? So things like that, stuff like here, I can actually help guide adult educators that actually want to go into, that want to learn more. So you could have, for instance, something like an open a ChatGPT by uploading like your resume or things you've done, and then it can just make suggestions that okay, what about you go this pathway or this pathway, because you just don't want to dive into the ocean without a path. You're just going to get lost.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Aaron, I'm going to come to you with that same question.
Okay. I think another vital thing that AI can contribute in transforming adult education is training generative AI models for personalized learning. We understand that most adults are busy, they have work, they might not be able to sit down in classes, for hours learning. So we can train generative AI chatbots, or models to teach, these specific skills that they are looking to learn. You understand? And through AI, we can get valuable data to know the places that they are lacking, and the AI can suggest, the lessons that they need to retake for them to pass that particular model. You understand? So I think this is like a vital way AI can contribute to adult learning.
All right, thank you, Mr. Aaron. Yes, Mr. Chukwuemeka.
So something that quickly came into my mind based on that question are two things. So I think we need to infuse in our products, in the online products, two tools. One has to do with having an AI career guidance, and another has to do with ensuring that our tools can actually help with adaptive curriculum. So I say this, if you notice in 2020 during the COVID, everyone was shut down and most people had to work remotely. So according to the World Economic Forum, over 500 million people need to reskill or upskill in order to adapt for the future of works, because so many things are going to evolve and change. So using AI and with the capabilities of career guidance, it could also, based on your profile, it could guide adult learners on, okay, this is the future. These are the courses or the resources or the
available
learning
to you.
paths that you should focus on, because it has a lot of data that it has already analyzed, and it knows that in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, this is where the world. Because something about AI is that it understands, it learns, it predicts, it analyzes, and also it has the potential to operate autonomously. So based on this data set, it will be able to advise the adults, guide them in career paths that, okay, take such learning content in order to remain relevant down the line. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuemeka. Mr. Orakwe, I'm going to come to you with that same question, please.
Okay, so a very interesting report was released earlier this year. That's the Future of Jobs report, which I think was mentioned just now from the World Economic Forum, right? And they list analytical thinking and creative thinking as skills that people will need to thrive in the future. But I also referenced this story, something that happened on May 5 of this year. Someone tweeted an image of the Pentagon being attacked, which is a deep fake, by the way, generated with Midjourney, and it affected the S&P 500. About 12.5 basis points was lost. That's about $500 billion was wiped off the market cap. So, and that would not have happened if the people who saw that image were AI literate. And AI literacy will be the ability to tell that this image you're looking at was generated by a computer algorithm. And in some other instances, there are people who are being fooled by hearing voices of their loved ones making demands, or their loved ones sounded like they were in trouble and making demands from them. So a lot of adult learning has to happen in the next 5 years so that people do not fall victim to hearing their loved ones' voices, which can be cloned with just 3 seconds of audio is enough to clone anybody's voice now, right? So a lot of the adult learning that has to happen in the AI space must be driven by government too, right? So all of the people who typically are interested in protecting customers from fraud and what have you must actively participate in this revolution so that they educate the populace. Okay, these are the things that are now possible. Your videos can be deep fake, your voices can be deep fake, and then this is how you detect that these things are fake. Not just in the workplace. So every adult has to learn how to tell, what is AI generated and what is not. Which is why he mentioned that everybody has to upskill. A lot of people have to upskill so they understand what's the difference between human and AI.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Orakwe. I'm going to borrow from
Yeah.
something that he said, and this is something some of you have mentioned on stage here as well. Now, that's the area of collaboration with educational institutions as well as the government. This question is, how can the government and educational institutions collaborate with technology companies to integrate AI effectively into the curriculum as well as teacher training programs? As it is, something that has been witnessed over time in Africa is the dearth in teacher training. So how can this be addressed? Mr. Aaron, let me start with you.
Okay. I think there needs to be a collaboration, especially for data. You understand? Because the beautiful thing about AI is that it can make informed decisions due to availability of data. So I think one of the areas that there's a need for collaboration is the area of collaboration for data, getting valuable insights into what happens in the classroom. So if we have AI development companies, research institutes, partnering with the government's teaching bodies, to provide this valuable data for them to create these products that can help advance, our teaching curriculums and whatnot. So I think a collaboration for research, and sharing of data is an important aspect of collaboration.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Aaron. Mr. Hussein, I'm coming back to you online with that same question, please. Mr. Hussein, do we still have you online? All right, it would appear we've lost him. Mr. Orakwe, John, would you mind giving us your thoughts on that?
Sorry, I missed the question. Can you?
Okay, so we were talking about the area of collaboration. Now, you did mention collaboration with the government and educational institutions. Now, we're looking at how they can collaborate with technology companies to integrate AI effectively into the curriculum and teacher training programs.
Oh, okay. So, like I mentioned before, international partners like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they provide a lot of funding for anyone who's looking to build AI for social good, right? And then, of course, there are people who have also done this before. One example I gave was Khan Academy and the guys at Harvard. So they are always willing, because of all the confusion at this point in time, they are very willing to always share what they've learned, the insights that, any insights whatsoever that can help anybody else accomplish the things that they've been able to accomplish. They're always willing to share it. So it's about reaching out to all of these different people, taking their lessons and finding a way to implement it locally. But the funding is there because everyone is, frankly, just trying to figure it out at this point in time. So there's a lot of helping hand. It's for us to reach out to these guys and see what is possible.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Orakwe. Do we have Mr. Hussein back online? Okay, we do not. Okay, so we'll move on. I want to look at the diversity of Africa now, and the role AI can play in providing a quality education in remote or underserved areas where access to traditional educational resources is limited. Mr. Chukwemeka, I'll start with you.
Okay, so, before I answer the question, I want to create a picture of how a classroom in Africa looks like. So when I mean in Africa, I'm not talking about the urban area. We're talking about
Rural
the
area.
remote areas. So when you go to the remote areas, some of these pupils or students sit under the trees to learn.
Precisely.
Some of them do not have classrooms. Some of them do not have access to constant power. Some of them do not have access to a board, but they have a teacher who comes to teach them. And if you also look at the numbers, depends on the region you go to. And when you look at, so if you go to the farther north, you see that so many people do not go to school. They're very few in the class. If you go to the southern part of Nigeria, you see so many students. So in some areas, you could have 1 to 200 pupils, that's the ratio between a teacher and to the students. And if you come to another region, it's much lower. So when we talk about AI and how it can address the digital divide, something that I feel we should look into is in the area of collaboration. But before we come to the collaboration part, I mentioned the Rachel project. It was created for issues like this. Nevertheless, it needs hardware, devices. So that seems to be more cheaper than building a full classroom, because if you come with a smart TV, put it under the tree, bring a gen, a lot of people can learn. With the Rachel device, all the learning contents are put inside that server or router, which connects to those devices locally. You don't need the internet or the computing power. So that's one way. But we also need to look at, when you go to a typical African classroom, language is a barrier.
Precisely.
So AI is also an effective tool to ensure that most of these data or most of this learning are done in the local diverse languages. And that thing AI could also do to reach the remote area is the area of disabilities. Not all of us can hear, can learn, can speak, or can see. So, and there are AI tools that enables text-to-speech, voice recognition to address these unique cases. But the truth is that, as one of my co-panelists has said, we need collaboration, we need funding. And the last question talked about collaboration. So I look at the AI for all project done in India. And the Indian government worked with Intel, worked with the education board to come up with a project. And their goal was to target 4 to 11 years. They wanted to catch them young. So in Nigeria, they say it's important for the government, and when I mean the government, I mean NIDA, NCC, Galaxy, because they can address the infrastructural aspect. Then you need the education
institutions
group to also come in, because you need them not just to endorse the contents being curated, but you need expertise. One thing people fail to understand, that AI requires super intelligent people, and most of them are in the educational sector.
Precisely.
To help create and train these models. And we also need the industry. Because the government lays out the funding and the policy, the education sector comes with expertise, while the industry comes with expertise and infrastructure and resources. So all these three are very, very critical to get to the remote and underserved regions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuemeka. Beautiful response. Mr. Waleola, I'm going to come to you because there's something very salient that he did mention, and that's the area of the physically challenged, the peculiarity of each individual. Not everyone can see, not everyone can move around the way some of us can, not everyone can hear, not everyone can speak. So with this in view, how can AI help in tailoring educational content to cater to this rich diversity that is present here in Africa and ensure that learning materials are culturally relevant and sensitive?
That is an awesome question. And it's an awesome question because these people, when I look at Nigeria, I think there are a lot of problems that need to be solved. I mean, if we're talking about, how we would use AI to target this set of people, we should be asking, how many people that can actually walk can access a lot of the facilities in Nigeria? So how many of them actually really, these are basic stuff that I think
They sound basic, but they're not for every
we
individual.
should have in this country. Like, I mean, if God forbid I'm crippled today, like, can I even access the ministry? Like, how many places can I actually access? So, I mean, in as much as we're talking about AI, we need to look at the fundamental problem, right, of how to solve some of the basic things we need. We've talked about, infrastructure. We've talked about, having, electricity to even power your computer. So there are a lot of things that we need to talk about. But I would go back and just give a generic answer to an AI question. And well, so I feel like you said, there are already stuff like text-to-speech and all of that already they're accessible and you can even use them, even on your phone. Now, what we need to figure out is, as developers, as people building this product, we should also pay attention to accessibility. So, and accessibility comes in what way? Like, okay, if you're building a UI, for your application, ensure it's accessible to these people. When you have an anchor tag, ensure you have an alternative message so that once they click on it, it will play the sound. These are actually basic things that we as people that will be building this product need to bear in mind so that we don't act like our government that do not put this set of people in mind when building infrastructures, but I mean buildings, right? So we just need to ensure that we pay attention to those little things. There are tools that you can use to run on your website to know how accessible your website is. Because either way, the person would have to use the application, right?
Precisely.
So it has to be accessible. So I don't think it's a lot of AI issue for us because the text-to-speech of this is already exists even on your mobile phone or your computer. You just highlight, you say play, it's going to play it for you. What we need to do is to write our application in such a way that it actually can take advantage of all of those things that already exist.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Waliola. Do we have Mr. Hussein back online? We don't? Okay, unfortunately, we've lost him. So, Mr. Orakwe, can I come to you with that same question?
Yeah, sure. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, so can you rephrase?
Okay, yes. So there was something that Mr. Chukwuemeka mentioned here earlier on about the physically challenged. And now we're taking a look at how AI can help to tailor educational content to cater to Africa's rich diversity and ensure that learning materials are culturally relevant as well as sensitive.
Okay, yeah. So that's very important. And I think when he made that statement, I kind of thought about how some people appreciate content when it's delivered in their local language. Unfortunately, most of the large language models and AI that we have access to today are in English, right? So what I think must happen, what government can do, is to fine-tune the existing models so they can we can fine-tune ChatGPT. That's very possible. And we can fine-tune it to better understand content in Yoruba and to deliver content in Yoruba. We can do the same thing for Igbo language. We can do the same thing for Igala. We can do the same thing for Hausa language. And then what that means is that we're including all of those people who, for them, the best way for them to understand content is when it's delivered in their local language. The same thing that we do for ChatGPT can be done for text-to-speech and speech-to-text models. So we can use DeepGram. DeepGram is a text-to-speech. No, DeepGram is speech-to-text, right? Then 11 Labs is text-to-speech. So all of the different models available, we can fine-tune them to better understand our local language and vocalize our local language and even understand when the local language is being spoken. This has been done in India already. So at India Institute of Technology, they fine-tuned OpenAI's Whisper. Whisper is a speech-to-text model. So if you have the ChatGPT mobile app, whenever you speak to the app, it uses Whisper to understand you speaking in English. But when you try to do it in any other language apart from English, the word recognition rate starts to drop. It just means that it doesn't understand you quite clearly. So we as a government, because it's been done in India, we can take it upon ourselves to fine-tune all of these existing models. We don't have to train the model from scratch. That will cost hundreds of millions of dollars. GPT will cost at least $100 million to train. Right? We don't have to do that. Fine-tuning is a lot less expensive. And then that way we cater to all of the people who better understand content in Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Igala, and all our local languages. And that's something that even if we do it, we hear things like some languages are endangered in the country. If we do that, it means that we have this body of knowledge that would always understand this local language, and then we preserve our culture that same breath.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Orokwe. Mr. Aaron, I'm going to come to you with that same question.
Okay. I think like the both speakers have really shed light on the topic, but one other critical aspect I think will be relevant is training, providing adequate training for these people to use this technology. So Proventure, we create an avenue for them to access the technology. They need to be trained. So manpower will need to be allocated, to train these physically challenged people on how to take advantage of this technology. Concerning diversity, like the other speaker said, language is a real barrier, and thank God in Unicorn, we're already working on an AI model that can communicate, in various African languages. It can currently already teach digital literacy topics or models in Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, and Pidgin. So you see that when you bring personalized learning to these individuals, they can get the best out of the models and understand, because obviously literacy is a problem, or a barrier for them. Yeah, so this is just my contribution to.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aaron. Speaking personally, I would say I'm excited for Africa's future with some of the things that I can see that are already being worked on to address some of these areas that we are lacking in. However, like we have pointed out here on this stage and with our panelists online, there are challenges, but they will be addressed in due course and in due time. However, like I did say at the beginning of this gathering, it's not just going to be the conversation. The conversation is not going to be solely about those of us who are seated here on stage. It's also about you. We're all here to learn, and we're also here to impart knowledge from our various districts. So at this juncture, I believe I am free to throw open to the audience. If you have any questions, observations, contributions, comments that you would like to make for our esteemed panel members, kindly do so at this time. I don't want to believe we've been talking to ourselves. I know. I know. Oh, we have a question up here in front, please. Up here in front. Here. So please, when you take the microphone, kindly introduce yourself. Let's know your name.
Okay, thank you. My name is John Kennedy Chime. I'm a CEO of Milange Consulting. I'm a management consultant. And I think about 6-7 years ago, I worked in NIDA. I'm aware that, thank you panelists, and I'm happy the discussion so far on what you said about promoting digital literacy. But my comment is simple. I think sometime last year, the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy came up with a national broadband policy. And I'm aware that almost all the agencies in this ministry were given specific mandates. For example, I know that NACHCOMSAT, I can't see this thing here, had this mandate to deepen penetration of broadband in underserved areas. And I've heard a lot of people talking about the situation in the country, especially in rural areas, which is correct. But as a consultant that has been working in this ministry, I've discovered a very poor interagency relationship. And if they have to really work on this, especially aid literacy, digital literacy, I think one of the things that will come out with the outcome of this gathering is that these MDAs should promote active interagency relationship. They should come and they should sit down, look at this broadband policy, their mandates. When I was in NIDA, I was also heading interagency. And I think we did a lot with TED Fund in terms of promoting information technology. So it's a very poor outcome. It's actually not, it's unfortunate, but that's what is happening. They are working in silos. And I do not think that as they are working in this, without any relationship, they can really achieve what we think they're supposed to. Nigeria is of age to be one of the best in AI in the African continent. That's my little contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And he did mention something that is very, very important, and we see happen ever so often here, especially in Nigeria, the lack of synergy. So can I throw it open? Mr. Chukwuemeka looks like he wants to respond.
Okay, so I think he was very spot on. Again, he's my boss, so I think...
You cannot go against your boss.
Yeah, so I need to also choose my words very well from here. So the truth is that, that's why I mentioned, when everyone was saying government, I specifically mentioned the names. I said NIPDA, NCC, NICOMSAT,
and the rest.
So I was very, very specific.
You were.
But my boss went, he said
step
everything
further.
all out. So I'm going to follow his line and his line of thought, not my own line of thought, his own line of thoughts now, because the boss has spoken. So I think the problem is, aside everyone working in silos, I know about the broadband policy, and this is after the Indukwe's policy of 2018. So I keep telling everyone that, to me, talk is cheap in this part of the world. And that's why when we talk about, I think part of the takeaway, something that should be captured in the communique is that there should be an AI roundtable where Digital African is going to spearhead it. I know that this current government are looking for AI experts. They want to go into the AI spectrum. So Digital Africa should also play a role in that and bring all key players to the table. Because it's very, very important that all key players, those who will handle infrastructure, those who will handle policy, those who handle the intellectual property or the expertise, it's very, very important because everyone is working in silos. You hear today that NICOMSAT wants to roll out satellites to deepen penetration. You hear NCC say theirs and nothing is being achieved. Nothing is being achieved. And it's also important to bring in the private sector and give them the free hand to do what they need to do. Because if you look at America and everywhere that has advanced, you see that it's driven by the private sector. The public sector. What the private sector does is just lay the framework and the policies for everyone to have an open field day. And that is very, very important. And the truth is that Nigeria can play a major role, or the biggest role, not just in Africa, but in the world. And why do I say this? If you look at the numbers of intellectuals globally, you see that Nigerians has one of the most educated citizens or nationals all over the world. And AI is about training models. You need experts or intelligent people to train models. And you have Nigerians all over the world who are doing excellently well. So it's important for us to come together, to unite, and to come up with a framework where everybody are not acting in silos, but as one unit body going forward. That's the only way we can win or create a niche for ourselves. So that's just what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuemeka. Is Mr. Hussein back online? Okay. Mr. Orakwe, could we go to you to kindly respond to that comment made here earlier on? Is Mr. Orakwe still with us?
Oh, okay. Yes, I am. Sorry.
Okay.
So I know that a national AI policy is in the works, right? So I suppose that one of the things that will be in that policy or the structure of that policy will be such that it encourages inter-agency collaboration, because that's very necessary, because even for the businesses, like private businesses who already use AI currently, there's something called a prompt library, which is, if a worker discovers the prompt that delivers a certain kind of result, much better than what they were used to getting before, they just put it in the prompt library for anybody else who wishes to use that prompt, or they can share it with the public on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever else. So it's important because of just how uncertain these times are, this is the beginning of a revolution. There's a lot of dust in the air. So much is unsettled. So it's important that the national AI policy captures the need for all of the different agencies to work together. It could be in the form of a prompt library, it could be in the form of something much more complex. But the AI policy, the national AI policy, which is being worked on, has to reflect this need for interagency collaboration. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Orokwe. Would any of our panelists on stage like to respond before I move back to the audience? Okay. All right. So we're back to the audience now. Yes, we have someone up here in front. Where's the microphone, please?
Good morning, the audience. My name is Fred Apeji. I'm part of the Digital Africa team. Talking about not working in silos that our big brother here had mentioned, shouldn't there also be a role for the National Assembly? In the opening ceremony video that we watched yesterday, I heard various figures being thrown up about China putting together $100 billion to fund AI in the next 5 years or thereabout, about South Korea doing the same, about the US voting a good chunk of money for the same purpose, basically. In a country like ours, the people that will vote such a money is the National Assembly. So when we talk about, you mentioned, you corroborated what he said about not working in silos, about even having a round table where all of these various agencies come together to say, hey, let us see how we can pool our thinking together and come up with a pathway in terms of funding AIC. Shouldn't we also have the National Assembly play a role? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good morning, all. I'm by name Shamsuddin Muhammad Sani, CEO SMS Fashion Industry. You made mention that all content of AI are being endorsed by Africa community. In this regard, what if students are caught cheating during or malpractice during exams, and it happens that they use AI application towards that cheating? What's the consequence? Yeah, this is my questions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris from More Integrated Services. I want to find out if the... can you hear me? Okay, I want to find out if there's a policy on or legislative advocacy on AI. Can that also be integrated in our school, school environment, to start making AI learning a little bit affordable? Because it seems like it's a personalized or maybe professional training to get an AI training. Can we imbibe it in our school curriculum so that it will be, something that the schools can start learning about, right now and in a very cradle age? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Can we address these first three questions and then we'll continue? Thank you so much. Okay, my panel members, I'm coming to you. I didn't get his name, apologies, but we had him talk about the National Assembly playing a role in everything that we've talked about here. Mr. Wale, let me come to you with that.
Yes, I think the National Assembly should play a role, and I think every citizen should actually also make our government accountable. The reason why I said that is because, if the government generates $100 billion, for instance, for AI, how can we really track how it's being used? So is there any kind of SLA that shows you, okay, well, if you have this idea and you send us a proposal, it costs you $5 million, we're going to give you the money and then have an agreement and run it like a business that, once we give you this money, we need to see a product.
Precisely, follow-up.
Right? Because what is the essence of, releasing money, and at the end of the day, there is really nothing to show for it, right? I would also go back to, the fundamental things that I've kind of like just mentioned a couple of times over, is that there are a lot of things that we need to really look at. Our infrastructure. Right now we're talking about, internet, AI, and all of those things. There's still basic issues that we need to deal with, which is actually just having your light on. Yesterday I had to give out Touchlight as a souvenir to people that came to my stand. And the reason why I did that was kind of like, okay, well, I'm coming to Nigeria, a lot of people would need Touchlight. Coincidentally, when I was handing the Touchlight out, that was when the light kind of tripped off for a couple of seconds, right? I mean, we need to look at some of these issues, right? Like, is AI, if we're talking about AI, now is it going to be another, sector that will just function like the power sector that has been we've been spending billions of dollars on, and maybe perhaps there's little to show for it, right? So that is, what I have to add to that, well, we need to involve National Assembly, and we as a citizen needs to be interested to know what the money is being used for, right? We need to hold everyone accountable. Precisely. Because it's not just about releasing the billions of dollars, it's about, okay, what are we going to achieve with it? And do we even have the foundation to even build on? Because if you don't have power, if you don't have good internet, I mean, we are just, it will just be like exactly what we're trying to say, that we're just turning around and not fixing the real issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Waleola. Mr. Aaron, I'll come to you with that same question.
Okay, I believe legislation is the driving force for socio-political change, and AI is a sector that is begging for regulatory compliance, because as much as AI can be used for good, it can also be used for mischievous things, right? So I think there is a need, for legislation, not just to tackle the area of funding, but also legislations to determine the application of AI in our society. You understand? There need to be regulatory compliance requirements for startups building AI products, and those AI products have to meet these requirements before they can be rolled out to society. So legislation does play a key role, in this. And I believe with our new Minister for Information, Communication and Innovation in Nigeria, I see that there's light, and most of these things will be tackled.
Okay, speaking of legislation, we had a question there from Mr. Chris where he was asking about legislative advocacy on AIT integration in schools and it being made affordable for all, if I heard him correctly. Yes, so Mr. Chukwemeka, would you like to respond to that?
Okay, so I think that's very, very important. I don't know if you can hear me. So it's very, very important that it's integrated into the school curriculum. I spoke about what India is already doing for AI for all. So I think it's something Nigeria also have to imbibe, because it's easier to catch them young than we that are already very old and, probably might not take it that seriously. I feel AI now, yes, it addresses this current generation, but it's more for the upcoming generation.
Future.
And legislation is also important. I wanted to add to what my other co-panelists said concerning legislature going to the National Assembly. It's important, but I don't think that's the important thing here, because it's like putting the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart. And I say this because I was involved in the NIDA bill, saga, where NIDA wanted to come with a new act, and back and forth. And part of what NIDA wanted to capture was this AI, giving them power to regulate. And by the way, I'm not here speaking for the bill, because I know I played a role on the winning side, whichever side you think is that. But the problem was that the legislators were willing to do the right thing, but the government agencies had different views. So it became very, very messy at the national stage. It became very, very messy. So again, I feel that the tech sector, the government agencies regulating the tech sector need to come together, harmonize, remain united, and come up, because you need a lot of money, just like the way South Korea, America, and this, but all of them need to come together, then approach the legislature in order to get the necessary approval. They get their budgets approved. They know how they go about it. So if AI is in their is part of their strategy or their long-term vision, it's easier for them. So we in the public sector can also come in as a lobby group, and I feel Digital Africa should play a role in that as a lobby group to talk to the government agencies so that they see it as part of a larger strategy. Then together we can approach the National Assembly. Because if the National Assembly wants to, if ministry or agency A say yes, agency B say no, it's my mandate, there's a problem. It just literally kills that agenda right there. So I think remaining united is very, very important. For the grassroots, I think it's important. Part of the vision is that we need to catch them young. I know in IEEE, we have this, because I serve on IEEE, and there's this REACH project we're trying to roll out. It's a STEM initiative which includes AI to the grassroots, where we want to teach secondary schools how technology evolved and also AI. So it's something that we're also looking to do through the IEEE. But again, the government has to play a larger role to get into the grassroots. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuemeka. I'm going to go to Mr. Orakwe now, who is with us virtually. Mr. Orakwe, we still have you there, don't we?
Yes, you do, yes.
Beautiful. So we had someone here from the audience talk about exam malpractice and the use of AI technology. I believe his question was, if he uses AI technology and he's caught cheating, what would be the consequences?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know a couple of universities who November 30th. Okay, ChatGPT was launched November 30th of last year, and when school resumed in January, February thereabouts, a few universities outlawed the use of ChatGPT. But right now, they've all revised. They've all had to revise that policy, and they currently have policies that guide students on how to use ChatGPT and all the other AI in class. Right. So in the world of applied AI, there's something called Kasparov's law, right? And the law states that a weak human plus strong AI plus a well-defined process is better than a strong AI alone, and it is much better than a strong human plus strong AI plus poorly defined process. It just goes to tell you that the way work will be done going forward, right, is human plus AI, and anyone who is not learning to master these tools will only fall behind. True. Right? So the implication is that schools must actively inculcate the use of AI in students' life, right? So the workflow going forward into 2023, right now, 2024, 2025, and even into the very far future is going to be human AI collaboration. We've seen this in many industrial spaces. So like what schools have done is they've fine-tuned AI systems that guide students to discover the answers themselves. The students are allowed to use AI, but not to the extent that it just gives them all the answers, but it guides them through a thinking process so that the AI is helping to improve their creativity, critical thinking, their ability to collaborate, and all kinds of other skills that they need to thrive in the world, right? So the mistake that we shouldn't make is to outlaw these systems, but find a way that it improves all the qualities, all the skills that we want to inculcate in these students. That's how we should approach it. And when it comes to examination malpractice, I don't exactly know what kind of examination malpractice he's talking about, but so what some professors do is there's this very interesting story. Before he gives an assignment, what he does is that he fits that assignment into ChatGPT. And then the output of that, basic prompt, he shares it with the students and tells them, look, I've already given ChatGPT this assignment. These are the answers. But I need you to think in a different direction. I don't want this answer from you. Think in a different direction and then give me something else. So he's encouraging them to infuse their human creativity into that process. And I think if more teachers take that approach, then we don't have to fear examination malpractice using AI. And in fact, there's something called hallucination. Because if truth really matters, in a subject, and the student just goes ahead to ask the AI, oh, give me this answer, there's every possibility that the AI gives the student a wrong answer. So the teacher is central to this whole use of AI in the classroom. So that by encouraging students to use AI and encouraging them to use AI in a way to improve their critical thinking and all the other skills that they wish to inculcate in these people, then there's no danger of examination malpractice. And even if it does happen, the school's AI policy should be able to cater to that. So in essence, every school should have an AI policy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Orokwe. So we're supposed to use AI to guide us, to spark creativity, not just to jack it and use it as it is. So let me come down to here, those of you here on stage. What would you like to add to what Mr. Orokwe said?
Okay, concerning AI policies, I know there are already schools that have a required amount of AI that can be imputed into your work. So there's like a percentage that it shouldn't go above. Yeah, so there are already policies like that to, curtail the use of excessive AI in
intellectual work.
Exactly. So those are like policies that are already put in place.
Yeah, I can add to that. So AI is, let's use ChatGPT for instance, right? Like you generate content from AI. You are creating more work for, the people that are going to grade your work. There are tools now that actually, run your code, reach out to, ChatGPT API, get the result, and then compare it with what you've submitted. So that way it kind of like checks, like, okay, well, the variation between what you have. So people are already using these tools to kind of like, catch people. So like I remember a colleague that was grading students, this is tech code, right? People would copy code, I would kind of like change the variableness and all of that, but what happens is when you're actually running, like on the Linux machine, you can actually detect that this code is actually similar. So it's, I think it just creates, perhaps more work, and then, I just feel like, the people that will be grading just need to be smart enough to be able to use some of these tools to be able to detect that, oh, well, I think, this, you need, there are questions that needs to be answered. And I would always tell people that there's really nothing new in ChatGPT. What they've just done is they've accessed a lot of data.
Precisely.
That, now they have data. In fact, we're giving them more data. Because if you use the ChatGPT API, you can upload a CSV on their server, right? And then you can query them for your own use, but again, they have it for everyone else to use. So the more you use ChatGPT, the more it gets better because you're giving it data.
Yeah, exactly.
Developers back in the days would use Stack Overflow. Like working as a developer, you would go to Stack Overflow, you would look at code, you would copy it, you would tweak it to do what you wanted to do.
What you needed
or you go to like a blog post, GitHub, there are always codes everywhere. So what it's done is just taking all of this data and then, you know what, train it, and then now you can easily just access it. So yes, there are tools that are already built to actually, solve some of those issues.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Waleola. Mr. Chukwemeka, you look like you want to add something to that.
Okay, so what I want to ask to their beautiful summations is, I think the easiest way, aside you have these plagiarism tools that already detect, is ask critical questions, critical thinking questions. So, because if you impute an exam question into ChatGPT or an AI tool, if it requires critical thinking, ChatGPT is going to give you a wrong answer.
Yeah.
To a great extent, it's going to give you a wrong answer. So it's important that in order to checkmate that, aside the tools they've mentioned, lecturers should ask critical thinking questions. And from critical thinking questions, it's easier for the students to actually apply knowledge that they've learned, not just replicate or copy and paste.
Yes.
So they have to think through the problem. So, and I also totally agree that AI should be allowed in schools because it can guide students on how to think. Nevertheless, when the educator wants to ask questions, they need to ask critical thinking questions.
Precisely.
Because that way it's easier for people to actually apply their knowledge. Because trying to go through AI, the lecturer can easily pick it. And I think in this part of the world, in Africa, using context-based, because when we're in school, when they are teaching us bearings and this, and they use different foreign terminologies. So if I say calculate the bearing between Borno and Maiduguri, ChatGPT cannot answer that if you don't understand the concept. So that's like a critical thinking question. Because the question is asked based on the context of Nigeria or whatever African country. So that to me is another way educators can get students not to fool them when answering their questions, alongside the excellent presentation they made.
You've all made excellent submissions, so. Well, thank you so much, my esteemed panelists. We're going back to the audience now for more questions, comments, observations, and we have a lady at the back there. Yes, please kindly introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Gloria Ugolia Hiosu. I'm a filmmaker and the CEO of Gladio Streamline Pictures, where we use movies as a tool for behavioral changes and for educational films. I'm listening to this, I am quite impressed, but quite saddened that the creative industry is not also included in this panel or in the discussion so far, because the creative industry, when you look at animation and AI, it helps extremely well in educational materials, in making the robotics look more human, in making interpersonal training more beneficial, in terms of psychology of film and everything you want to use. So the creative industry is something we should consider when talking about AI and the future of AI, because regardless of the industry, whether you're talking about a heart surgery and you're trying to train people about heart, you still need a movie, a video, a documentary to teach them. Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ostel Bassi Florence. I'm a data analyst and also an entrepreneur. So I just have 3 questions basically to ask regarding classrooms. AI in education. So firstly, what specific AI tools would be used in classrooms? How do you address data privacy issues and concerns with students? And is it possible to teach machines ethics, empathy, or compassion? Thank you.
Okay, could you please repeat the third question?
Is it possible to teach machines ethics, empathy, or compassion?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, my panel members, over to you.
I'd love to build a tool that can actually, do that, like ethics, empathy, and compassion. I really would love to do that. But unfortunately, these are just machines, programmable objects, input and output. They are just smart enough now to kind of make decisions just based on data, right? So, which means if a data is wrong, if you have wrong data, it's going to give you, wrong output, right? So, there's no way you can build empathy into that. If you're building that, you are literally saying we should build a human being, right? And I don't think we can get to that level. Perhaps maybe in the future, but I don't know. I would let my other panelists
I think we should hear from Mr. Aaron first. He was telling us about the first African humanoid robot earlier on.
Okay, I think there are different kinds of AIs. There's the reactive machine, self-aware, limited memory AI. So currently, the 2 AIs we have working are limited memory and reactive machine, right? But self-aware and theory of minds is still a myth, basically. So I don't think, I'm just aligning with him, I don't think yet we have gotten to the point where we can create AI, that has emotions and all that, but it is a theory for that, So just like most of the things that we have today were theories from the past, we can say 30 years from now, or 20.
It's a possibility.
It's probably a possibility.
Well, for now, I'm happy hearing that. Before we hear someone waking up tomorrow and saying, I want to date a robot. Like, these are usually the things that come up. So,
well, we already have films portraying that, so maybe 30 years from now.
Please, no. Mr. Chukwuemeka.
Okay, so I think I'm going to answer it in two ways. It's just like asking, is AI objective or subjective? So, and for me, to answer her question, for now, it's not, I won't say that you can program AI, not necessarily machines. You can train AI to be empathic and to a great degree compassionate. And someone made a summation when she talked about the creative industry. So if we have used something we call synthesia, text to video, you will see that using synthesia and other tools like that, you can actually create emotions where the presenter can actually connect with the audience. That's AI. So to a great degree, yes, that's me speaking at an objective level. But if I look at being subjective, and particularly in the education sector, remember I said something that we can't remove the human element in teaching, where a teacher understands, can connect with a student, like in a traditional classroom when they're teaching them. So to a great extent, AI cannot do that. So in two ways, yes, I can say yes, it can show some form of empathy and emotional connection. However, to some great extent, you can't remove humans from the classroom or from the learning. So that's the way I'm going to answer the question. Down the line, because what's artificial intelligence, what's AI, is just to mimic or simulate human intelligence, the way we operate and our processes. Yes. So to a great extent, yes, but I know down the line there's going to be great improvements and stuff like that. And another example is for people that use Alexa and Siri. Based on your emotions, it can tell you the song to listen to and and stuff like that. That's AI. Based on your emotions, because it connects with your emotions. So that's some form of emotional, AI at play. So that will be my own contribution towards that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So the last audience member asked three questions. Mr. Orakwe, let me come to you.
Right.
Do we still have Mr. Orakwe?
Yes, you do.
Okay, yeah, so she asked three questions. Now, we're talking about the teaching machines to have human emotions. She also talked about the issue of privacy concerns in classrooms with the use of AI technology. What would you contribute to that?
Okay, so what can happen is data can be anonymized, right? Just anonymize the data so that you know that this person has this particular need, but the bio data of that person, their name, their weight, height, and all that sensitive data is not captured. Okay, so that way they are protected. And then, so let me just talk about the empathy a little, because there's a research from Stanford by Michael Kosinski. So he detected that theory of mind has actually emerged from the January 2022 version of GPT 3.5. So GPT 3.5 from January 2020 has the theory of mind of a 7-year-old child. And GPT 3.5, that's ChatGPT from November 2022, has the theory of mind of a 9-year-old child. GPT-4 probably has the theory of mind of a 10 or 11-year-old child. So what we're actually seeing in real time is AI growing up in front of us. So we're actually parenting these large language models. It's not to say that we have something that is conscious yet, but as for theory of mind, it is already here. And we're currently at the level of a 9-year-old child.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Orakwe.
Says he wants to add.
Yeah.
Mr. Waliola, you want to add something?
Yes, so when we talk about empathy, actually a lot of people that are married here know that it's even very difficult to even show
actual humans,
even as a human being. So if we're talking about machine, I mean, I used to work at user testing. So user testing is an American-based company. They actually collect information And so basically, if you want to test an application, you reach out to them and then they give you their platform. So what happens is it takes videos. So from the videos, you take pictures of people, right? So when you take the pictures, you can actually analyze the picture and read the body language based on data, right? So analyzing the picture and detecting that, okay, this person is smiling, this person is wow, this person is impressed, it's based on data. It can detect that I'm smiling. But I don't think that is empathy. That is just data, right? It is not, being empathetic means like I kind of understand how you feel.
Precisely.
And I can,
it has to draw from deep
so
emotion.
I can actually react to that. But, just, it's based on the data that you give me that an AI can actually
person can react, exactly.
react to. So it can be empathetic to actually know, oh, well, you've not eaten today. Are you hungry? Let me get you something to eat. Okay, well, I'm in love with you.
Like I said, nobody's dating robots anytime soon. So she also, her first question was about specific AI tools in classrooms. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Aaron, could I have you?
Specific AI tools in classrooms. Wow. I think when you talk about using AI in classrooms, you basically are looking at tools that can enhance learning, right? Currently, I do not have an idea of a specific AI tool that's been developed for classrooms. I don't know if any of our speakers know any of that, but maybe AI tools that relate to teaching, tutoring will be relevant. AI tools that relate to testing, knowledge, and getting data from those tests to know which students are performing, well. AI tools that can help language learning, right? So a lot of companies language tech companies are already incorporating AI into learning different languages. So imagine if AI, instead of just like a human being, you have a super AI teaching you how to speak Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, and the rest. So these are like relevant places I can think of, top of the mind, of how tools that can help learning, But I think maybe the other speakers might have better information than me on this subject.
Okay, Mr. Orakwe John, could we come to you with that same question?
Oh, yes. So, the tool I mentioned when I started, Canmigo AI, Khan Academy, they use it for hundreds of their students to help them, to provide personalized tutoring. Canmigo is Khanmigo, right? And then if you have a toddler, right, who has a very active imagination, they can use Scribble Diffusion, right? Scribblediffusion.com. So on Scribble Diffusion, they can sketch, a stick horse, or they can draw a car just with the skeletal structure, and then they tell the AI this is a car, and then the AI will do, like what Midjourney does. So like text to image. This one is scribble to image, right? So it's something that can increase their imaginative ability and also help them to spell better. Because if you tell them, I want you to draw an elephant, right? So they have to draw the elephant, but they also have to spell the elephant to tell the AI what they want it to produce, and then it gives them the output. So for, let's say from age 5 to 9, this is a very brilliant tool, Scribble Diffusion. And I think there are many more tools like that that would show up in the coming months. So Scribble Diffusion is scribblediffusion.com. And then, of course, you can also use ChatGPT, but I mean, very carefully though, because you as the adult, you have to craft a prompt, right? So you have to engineer a prompt on ChatGPT, something that would maybe test the ability to spell, or you can craft a prompt that acts as their spelling tutor. So it shows them a word, and maybe they have to write a phonetic form of that word, and what have you. So ChatGPT, but that has to be done with adult supervision. Scribble Diffusion is one which you can, to help improve their spelling ability and drawing attention to the art. And then, of course, Canmigo AI, right? So there's a very brilliant TED talk by the founder of Khan Academy, Sal Khan, So just check on Salkan's TED Talk on Kamigo AI. You'll find that I discovered so many brilliant ways that AI tool can be used in the classroom.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Arkwe John. We did not forget about you, Madam Gloria. She mentioned about the creative industry not being carried along or being present here, though they also have a lot to benefit as well as to impart in artificial intelligence. Mr. Chukwuemeka, would you like to respond first to that?
I'm sorry, I don't know. Could you rephrase the question? I didn't get it.
I actually didn't get the complete question, but she mentioned the creative industry not being present here or being carried along, and they equally have a lot to benefit from artificial intelligence.
Okay, so I can speak for why they are not here because I'm not the organizer, but I feel in the round table they need to be carried along, and it's very, very important because the creative industry. So something that might happen with AI is that industry might be affected. Because I mentioned Synthesia. There's so many animation, AI animation tools. By just putting in text, it creates the video. So it's important that that industry is carried along because we need to localize our own AI. So they will play a major role on how not just to set ethical standards, but to address divide and also to come up with our own avatar, how it's going to look like. So it's very, very important that they are part of that bigger round table.
That discourse, yes.
Because when you're coming up with an AI framework, it's very, very important to address bias. And the only way to address this is to have the key stakeholders, be it in terms of expertise, social or cultural backgrounds, or policymakers in the same room, so that everyone can make the right impact. So yes, she's right, and AI in the animation and in the video space is something that is growing like wildfire.
Precisely.
For me, I can't remember for short videos. It's just that I do not like what I see in Synthesia and this, and left for me alone, I don't necessarily need a videographer. I just go in and
input whatever it is.
For graphic designers, I probably will not pay one. I just need to go to Midjourney or the other tools and just tell it what I want and keep tinkering with it until I get a perfect graphics. So it's very, very important because we need them to help us train those models to serve the African continent. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that submission, Mr. Chukwuemeka. Mr. Waliola, finally, we don't have any more time.
Yeah, so that's an awesome question, and I really believe that they should be here. Personally, I'm working on LMS, like I already mentioned that. And part of the things that we're kind of looking at is collaborative learning and peer reviews. And I've been working with a UI UX, expert for about a year right now, and we've been looking at how to actually be able to use AI to do a lot of the features that we really want to do. Well, I guess I learned the hard way that you have to bring in creative people to kind of help you get through the stage, and then whatever it comes up with, I go around and do my research to kind of figure out, okay, can we really do this or can we really not do that? So that's how I've been able to kind of involve creative people in kind of building AI stuff at the early on. So they're actually the first set of people to kind of talk to for me to get me through that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuemeka. So our esteemed audience members, we do hope that we have been able to do justice to your questions. And sincere apologies to those of you who had questions or submissions but could not make them because we are actually pressed for time. Hopefully in the succeeding sessions, you'll be able to make your observations, comments, and so on. But let me use this medium right now to say a big thank you to our panel members, Mr. Hussein Mustafa, who stepped off some time ago. Dr. Chuks Ekweme, we thank you so much for joining us, as well as Chukwuemeka Okafo. We thank you so much for being a part of this panel. Waleola Akinsomi as well, and Orakwe John, who joined us virtually. Pardon me, Dr. Chuks was here represented by Mr. Aaron, so thank you to Mr. Aaron. Yes, and thank you, Mr. John. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so I wish you all an amazing day ahead, and in summary, we have looked back and now we're looking forward to the progress that Africa is going to make in artificial intelligence. Now, we've talked a lot about endorsement as well as collaboration and partnerships, very, very important and very key. And in view of all of that, synergy is also a very important factor that we must begin to encourage our key stakeholders to be a part and parcel of, because we cannot work in unison. Cohesion at the end of the day is what will continue to drive this revolution and transformative change that we're looking to see when it comes to technology on the African continent. We've also talked about the importance of upskilling, because we want a future where even myself, who is sitting down here now, who's an on-air personality, I could decide tomorrow I want to be a tech person, you know? That is what some of this technology will afford me the ability to do. And also taking a look at the data as well as the fact that it's beneficial to us because it is able to predict what is going to happen. So I thank you so much once again, our dear audience members, as well as our panelists who joined us here physically and virtually. And we hope forward to more conversations with you in the future. I'm definitely going to take down some contacts. Like, I'm going to use this forum as a great avenue for networking, and I do encourage the rest of you to do the same as well. My name is Angela Agbegi, and I look forward to having you with us for the next session.
Thank you.